Hello students, let us continue our discussion on units and measurements. Today we shall take the other form of measurement. In the previous session, we discussed about the measurement of length in average and large scales, right? For measuring lengths of average scale, we make use of devices like meter scale, vernier scale, screw gauge, even odometer. They're all comes under average scales of length. When we take the large scales of length, like the distance between Earth to Moon, distance between Earth to Sun, distance between Earth to a planet. So there we make use of indirect method to measure the length, and the method that we made use was, you all know that, parallax method. Using parallax method, we obtained the formula to get the length or distance between two distinct objects. And now we shall see how to measure. See, I have told you that length, when I take that, we are going to consider three quantities: length, mass and time. And in length, we have covered average length, measurement of average length, measurement of large scale length. And now what is left is measurement of small scale length. Okay. So now we are going to discuss measuring small scale length. So now you see, how are we going to measure very small lengths? So there are certain direct methods to measure small lengths, which involve measuring small lengths using. So first of all, what is small scale length? See, measurement of size of molecules, size of atoms are all taken to be small lengths, very small lengths they are all, isn't it? So, and that kind of measurement is done using microscopic techniques. See, when I say microscope, you might have seen a microscope used in your biology lab or in your previous classes. Yeah, somewhat similar. The main intention is to magnify the image, that is fine. But here, the working mechanism is going to be very much different. The microscopes that we make use to measure the size of molecules, size of atoms are all, the examples for such microscopes are electron microscope and tunneling microscope, etc. These are the few examples for the microscopes that we made use to measure, made use of to measure very small lengths, like size of atom, size of molecules. Now the question that comes is, these microscopes are all very advanced microscopes, electron microscope, tunneling microscope and all. But we knew the size of molecule even before the existence of electron microscopes, right? Before electron microscopes came into existence, we knew the size of molecule. How do we know about it? There are some indirect methods to measure very small lengths, like size of molecule. Okay, we'll see what is that indirect method now, using which we can get the very small lengths like size of molecule. Okay, so particularly I am going to choose oleic acid molecule. Okay, because we have a special property of oleic acid. Okay, so it's about measuring the size of molecule of, or size of oleic acid molecule. Okay. So this technique what I am going to take now comes under small scale length measurement. Particularly, I am going to measure the size of oleic acid, okay, oleic acid molecule. Okay. See, there is a particular reason to choose oleic acid itself. The reason being, see, if I take one drop of water and put it on top of a surface, the drop looks somewhat like this, right? So this might be a very small drop, but this will have plenty of layers, okay? Plenty of layers of water molecule, right? Layers of molecule. So one layer sits here, on top of which another layer of water molecule sits, on top of which another layer of molecule sits. It's millions of layers that we can find in this small drop. So at least thousands. Okay. So if we take water to measure the size of molecule, that will not help because we don't know what is the number of layers that exist in a single drop. But if I take oleic acid, the special property of oleic acid is it can spread over large space or large area. Okay. If I take a single drop of oleic acid and put that onto, okay, a very small single drop of oleic acid put onto the surface of water can spread across the area of the water given or water chosen. Say I have a tank of large area, okay, a big tank filled with water. See, the special property of oleic acid is such that even if I put a single drop of oleic acid, it can cover the entire, it will spread over the surface of water. That is a special property of oleic acid. The ability to spread over the surface is more when we compare to any other substance, such that it spreads in such a way that oleic acid forms a monomolecular layer. Monomolecular layer, what do you mean by that? So, the surface of water will have a single layer of oleic acid, a single layer of molecules of oleic acid. See, this is how we will have thousands of layers inside a single drop of water molecule, single drop of water, thousands of water molecules arranged one top of the other. But when I take oleic acid spread on top of water, it is only a single layer, okay, a single layer which is spread over the surface of the water. So we will make use of this property. But now the question that comes is, a single drop will cover huge area. So we want still smaller amount of oleic acid, still smaller, because a single drop will cover huge area. We don't want that much area to be covered. So we still want smaller amount of oleic acid. How do we get that? We get that by dissolving oleic acid in alcohol and diluting it. Okay. So what do we need now? What do we do is 1 centimeter cube. Okay, 1 centimeter cube means somewhat like this much of oleic acid. Okay, 1 centimeter cube of oleic acid is dissolved in 20 centimeter cube of alcohol. Excuse. Okay. So 1 centimeter cube of oleic acid dissolved in 20 centimeter cube of alcohol. Why are we doing that? See, now a single drop can spread over large area. We don't want that much of area to be spread. So we want still smaller amount of oleic acid. At the same time, we need to know how much oleic acid are we inserting, are we spreading on top of water. because the quantity of oleic acid also plays important role. Quantity means volume. Okay, we also need to know volume of oleic acid. Even though if we choose small amount of oleic acid lesser than a single drop, we should have the idea about volume of oleic acid that we are putting. Okay, so we dissolved it into 20 centimeter cube of alcohol. Then we take 1 centimeter cube of that solution. Okay, 1 centimeter cube of that solution. Then what we do? 1 centimeter cube of the solution of this solution, okay, which has 20 centimeter cube of alcohol and 1 centimeter cube of oleic acid. Now, what is the concentration of oleic acid? Concentration of oleic acid in this solution of 20 centimeter cube alcohol and 1 centimeter cube oleic acid is 1 by 20 times, right? If I take certain quantity of this solution, the amount of the volume of oleic acid that I can find inside it will be 1 by 20 times the total volume. Following? Since I have dissolved in 20 centimeter cube of alcohol, I can now get 1 by 20 times the volume of oleic acid inside whatever the volume of the solution that I take. Okay. So then what I do, I take 1 centimeter cube of this solution, okay, which I have already prepared, and is again dissolved in 20 centimeter cube of alcohol again, okay, is dissolved again in 20 centimeter cube of alcohol. Why are we doing this? See, I have told you that we need to have a very small amount of oleic acid. At the same time, we should have the idea about how much oleic acid are we putting on top of water. So, how do we, how can we be sure about both the things? Less quantity, at the same time measurable. So, what we are doing is we are reducing the concentration. First, we put 1 centimeter cube into 20 centimeter cube of alcohol, we dissolved it. Then we took 1 centimeter cube of this solution and we put that into 20 centimeter cube of alcohol and again dissolved. So, concentration of oleic acid reduced to 1 by 400 times, right, because it is 1 by 20 here in this solution, it was 1 by 20, and in the second solution it is 1 by 20 into 20. Okay. Therefore, the concentration of oleic acid reduces to 1 by 20 into 20. When we dissolve it in the first solution, it becomes 1 by 20. When we again dissolve it in the second solution, it becomes 1 by 20 into 20, 1 by 400 times, which means if I take 400 milliliter, 400 ml of the final solution, I can get only 1 milliliter, 1 ml of oleic acid inside it. Following? That is what the reduction of concentration means. If I take 400 ml of this final solution, I can get only 1 ml of oleic acid, rest everything is alcohol, but it is completely dissolved. Okay. So, that is how it is. Now, what we will do, we will take this dissolved solution, the final dissolved solution, and put that on top of water. Now, we can measure the quantity of oleic acid that we are putting on top of water. Okay. Few drops, or let me take n drops. Okay. N drops, we do not know what is the value of n. Depending on the requirement, we will keep on putting the solution. If the area spread is enough, so then we will stop. If the area spread due to the oleic acid is not enough, we will keep on putting the oleic acid. Once we put the oleic acid solution, this solution, the final solution on top of water, alcohol evaporates. Okay, alcohol always evaporates, and we will be left with a very small amount of oleic acid spread on top of water, which is whose volume can also be measured. Okay. So, n drops of the solution, n drops of the solution are put or spread on top of water. Yeah, the water surface on which we are going to put this n drops of solution, which will have as the water surface will have lycopodium powder sprayed on it. Okay, lycopodium powder sprayed. Okay, so the arrangement is as such. We'll have water surface like a container taken in water taken in a container, and we'll spray lycopodium powder on top of it so that the oleic acid spreads uniformly. And then after spraying the oleic acid, we'll put drops of this solution. When we put the drops of this solution, alcohol content will get evaporated, only the oleic acid will remain, and it will spread on the surface of water uniformly. Okay, so now it will form monomolecular layer of oleic acid molecules on top of water. So okay, so n drops are spread. N can be 5, 10, 15, anything. Okay, n can, depending on the situation. Now if V, okay, is the volume of each drop, okay, say each drop has the volume V, then total volume spread or total volume spread on top of water, or total volume of water put on top of the total volume of the oleic acid solution, the final solution is how much? See, each drop has the volume V, so n drops will have n times V, right? So then the total volume is n times V, where n is the number of drops, V is the volume of each drop. Okay, so this is about few steps. We need to continue, it's not yet over. Okay, now we have spread the solution on top of water. Now comes the math part of it. Okay, see, as I told you that, say this is the water surface. If I take this as the water surface, I have told you that the oleic acid will form monomolecular layer. Okay, monomolecular layer like this. See, this is the surface. Should imagine it in 3D, somewhat like container with water. Okay, it was filled with water, and now we have oleic acid spread on top of it in such a way that it forms monomolecular layer. Okay, a single molecule in each layer. Okay, so now you see, this is the thickness of each layer. What is the thickness? Thickness of each layer is the thickness of or the size of a single oleic acid molecule itself, nothing else, isn't it? So each layer has only one molecule, right? So thickness of that layer, how thick the layer is decided just by measuring or getting the size of molecule. If you weave it in 2D, it looks somewhat like this. This is one layer followed by another layer here, 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 like this. So each layer has the thickness T. Okay, thickness of each layer is T, and area in which the oleic acid spreads let that area be A. Okay. So, the volume in which the oleic acid spreads, the volume in which oleic acid spreads is, what is the volume in which the oleic acid spreads? It is area into thickness, isn't it? The total volume in which the oleic acid spreads is always area into thickness, because you see it is somewhat like a cuboid. So, volume of cuboid is length into breadth into height. This height itself is thickness. Length into breadth is taken as area directly. Okay. So, area into thickness will give me the total volume. Okay. A into T. Okay. A into T is the total volume spread. So, what is this volume equal to? This volume is equal to NV. Okay, this is the total volume of solution that we inserted, that we put, but the volume of oleic acid, okay, the volume of oleic acid that remains, okay, because the alcohol will get evaporated, so the volume of oleic acid that remains, the volume of oleic acid that remains is equal to, see, NV is the total volume, and this NV is the volume of solution, out of which only 1/400 part is oleic acid, rest is alcohol, it will get evaporated. So, NV into 1/400, okay, NV into 1/400 is the actual volume of oleic acid that will remain on the surface of water, rest everything is alcohol, it will get evaporated. And that oleic acid spreads like this, giving us the volume given by the dimensions area into thickness. Okay, area into thickness will give me the volume in the mechanical way or after spreading. Okay, so these two are the same. This much of oleic acid is spread like that to give this much of volume again. So, these two are one and the same, isn't it? Therefore, because that itself is the volume of oleic acid which has spread to give this shape. So, it is NV into 1/400. See, all these things can be measured. Volume of each drop can be measured, somewhat like a small tube which we make use to put drops into nose and all. Okay, if you observe, there we can measure the volume of each drop, isn't it? So, NV is easy to measure, into 1/400 is equal to area into thickness. Area is also easy to measure. Whatever the container that we have, we can get the area of the container easily, isn't it? Length into breadth will give me the area. So, NV into 1/400 is equal to AT. What we actually need? We need this T itself. This T itself is the thickness of each molecule. In fact, it is the thickness of each layer, which itself is the size of each molecule, isn't it? T, thickness is what we need. So, thickness T becomes equal to NV by area A into 1/400. So, this is the indirect method that we will make use to measure the size of oleic acid molecules. See, we are actually measuring size of each molecule now, and the remaining molecules will be of almost the same size. Okay, so we can compare the sizes now at least. So, now we have the idea about thickness of or size of oleic acid molecule, how big the oleic acid molecule is. See, it is going to be very small value, very small value. Even then we can measure it using this technique. Okay, it comes in the order of 10 to the power of -10 meter. Okay, 10 to the power of minus 10 meter, which means you should have the idea of 0 point followed by 9 zeros, then certain value. That small a single molecule is always. If you take a hair, a single hair will have somewhat like 100 micron. 100 micron is like 0 point, only 4 zeros, okay, 4 zeros. So 0.000, some value is the size of each hair. Now we are measuring the measurement till 0.9 zeros, okay, 0.0000, somewhat like that. So that's about measuring the size of oleic acid using indirect method by dissolving it into alcohol, again dissolving it into another solution of alcohol, and reducing the concentration to 1/400 times, then putting that solution with drop by drop on top of water so that it spreads over the surface chosen completely, and then the thickness is found using this formula. Clear? So this is about measuring the size of oleic acid. Now we shall see few special units of length. See, the SI unit is standard, which is fixed meter. Along with this SI unit meter, for measuring length of different ranges, we are going to make use of different units, which are also standard. They are all considered as standard units, but depending on the scale, because you see, when I take measuring the distance, or say the size of molecules, size of nucleus and all, there the size is going to be very small, and every time I should put into 10 to the power of minus 14, into 10 to the power of minus 15, into 10 to the power of minus 13, like that. In order to avoid the repetitive prefix or repetitive powers to be added, we can actually go with the special units. Okay, we will see what are the special units, and we can make use of those special units in our regular measurements when it comes to different ranges. Okay, so some special units of length. Okay, so one of the special unit of length regards to a very small scale measurement, small range measurement, which is size of a nucleus, size of different nuclei. Okay, so here size of nuclei is measured using Fermi. Okay, there is a special unit which is called Fermi. Okay, it is FERMI, 1 Fermi. 1 Fermi. Okay. 1 Fermi is the unit of length itself, which is equal to 10 to the power of minus 15 meter. Okay. So now, from now onwards, if I want to express the size or the radius of nucleus, any nucleus chosen, I can make use of Fermi. I don't need to put into 10 to the power of minus 15 meter into 10 to the power of minus 15 meter every time. I can directly take 1 Fermi. Okay, this nucleus is of size 10 Fermi. This nucleus is of size, say, 25 Fermi, like that. Okay, so this is a special unit of length. Next, we have 1 AU, 1 astronomical unit. Okay, AU stands for astronomical unit. So this is valid, or this is used in measuring very large distances, See, this astronomical unit is the distance or average distance, okay, average distance between Earth and Sun. Okay, the average distance between Earth and Sun is considered to be astronomical unit, 1 astronomical unit. That much distance is considered to be 1 astronomical unit, and the value of that astronomical unit is 1.496 into 10 to the power of 11, okay, plus 11 meters. So it's 1.496 into 10 to the power of plus 11, okay, meters. So this is about second special unit of length. Moving ahead, we have one more unit, special unit, which is called light year. Okay, light year. What is light year? Light year is the distance traveled by light in 1 year. See, light has the maximum speed, okay, has got the best speed, or we can say the maximum speed in the entire universe. The speed of light is 3 into 10 to the power of 8 meter per second, or which is close to 3 lakh kilometer per second. Just try to imagine, light can travel 3 lakh kilometers, okay, light can travel 3 lakh kilometer in 1 second, 3 lakh kilometer in 1 second. That is the speed of light. If light keeps on traveling with that huge speed for 1 year continuously, okay, see, now you try to visualize the length. If light travels for 1 second, it covers 3 lakh kilometers. For 2 seconds, 6 lakh kilometers. For 3 seconds, 9 lakh kilometers. Similarly, if the light keeps on traveling for 1 year, okay, for 1 year continuously, then the distance it covers, the huge distance it covers, is taken as light year. Okay, so light year is the distance covered by light in 1 year. Okay, light year is not used for measuring time. Okay, it's used for measuring distance itself. What is light year? It's the distance traveled by light or covered by light in 1 year. How much is the distance it covers? It's going to be 9.46 into 10 to the power of 15 meter. Okay, 9.46 into 10 to the power of 15 meter. The symbol is capital L, small y. 1 light year. Okay, this is how we represent it. 1 light year is equal to 9.46 into 10 to the power of 15 meter. Okay, so this is the other special unit, and one more special unit, which is called parsec. Okay, see, parsec, I'll just give you the idea about parsec, don't need to worry about the definition and all. See, we all know that earth revolves around the sun. When the earth revolves around the sun, it makes a distance of 1 AU, 1 astronomical unit, between earth and the sun, right? We all know that. Now, if I draw two lines from earth and sun, okay, if I draw two lines from earth and sun and join them at certain distance, at certain large distance, such that the angle between the two lines, okay, the angle between the two lines is 1 arc second, or 1 arc, simply 1 second is also the unit. Okay, second, yes, it is the unit of time, and we also make use of arc second as the unit for angle. Okay, see, 1 degree has got 60 minutes inside it. Keep that in mind. Okay, keep that in mind. 1 degree of angle has 60 minutes, 60 arc minutes inside it. Similar to 1 centimeter with 10 millimeters, one one degree of angle has 60 minutes, arc minutes, and each arc minute has 60 seconds, 60 arc seconds inside it. So, if I draw two lines from Earth and Sun such that it makes 1 arc second angle, the lines make 1 arc second of angle between them, then the distance that we consider, okay, from the point where the two lines meet to the earth or the sun, okay, this distance itself is considered as parsec. Okay, don't need to worry about definition and all, you just get to know, because the standard definitions are all not asked for boards. So it's the average distance between a point from which the earth and sun makes an angle of 1 arc second. That's how we can consider it. But the value of 1 parsec is important. Okay, 1 parsec is equal to, okay, it's more than light year actually. 3.086 into 10 to the power of 16. Okay, 3.086 into 10 to the power of 16 meter. So 3.086 into 10 to the power of 16 meter is the length of 1 parsec, or parsec unit expressed in terms of meter. Okay, this is one more special unit. And the last special unit for length is 1 angstrom. Okay, 1 angstrom. A to the power of 0, somewhat like that. This together is angstrom, 1 angstrom. 1 angstrom is equal to 10 to the power of minus 10 meter. 10 to the power of minus 10 meter. See, this angstrom is generally made use of to express the size of atoms, molecules, and the wavelengths of light and all. And Fermi is used to express the length or size of nucleus, different nuclei. Okay, see, nucleus is still smaller when we consider the entire atom. Okay, size of atoms and molecules are expressed in terms of angstrom. Size of nucleus is expressed in terms of Fermi. Okay, that is the use of different units that we have, and this is the list of special units for length. So this finishes the measurement of length. I've told you that we are going to consider 3 quantities: length, mass and time. And in each quantity we are going to consider 3 ranges: small scale measurement, average scale measurement, large scale measurement. We are done with large scale, average scale and small scale measurement of length. And now we will move ahead for measurement of mass. Okay. So when I take measurement of mass, once again in mass measurement we have 3 types or 3 ranges similar to length. With this time we are not going to take any method in detailedly. It is just the mention of methods that we have for measurement of mass. So we will take all the 3 ranges of masses. One is average range of mass, large range of mass, small range of mass. First let me take average range of mass. See, before we enter the ranges, we should have the clarity about what is the kind of range that we look for in physics. See, generally when I say large mass, what comes to your mind? In a regular situation, say if you see a huge truck carrying a load of stones, load of sand or load of iron, then you think of that as large mass, isn't it? And when I say small mass, what comes to your mind? When I say small mass, like measuring jewels, in jewelry shop with a sensitive electronic weighing machines comes to your mind. Okay, that is the small mass that we have, isn't it? But that's the regular situation. When it comes to physics, when we take this range, same range in physics, the ranges that we choose is very much broader. For example, when I say large mass in physics, it is not the mass of objects in a loaded truck. Even it is not the mass of entire truck. Even if it is not the mass of a huge huge hill or a mountain. No, those are all not the huge masses for us in physics. In physics, large mass stands for mass of Earth, mass of moon, the complete mass of stars, the mass of sun, mass of other planets. That is the large scale mass according to the measurements that we do in physics. Then what is the small scale measurements of mass in physics? The small scale measurements or small range measurements in physics is not the measurement of jewels. They are all average. It's the measurement of mass of atoms, mass of molecules, mass of nucleus. So that is the scale division in physics. Okay. So when I take small, when I say small scale, it is going to be very small, like mass of atom, mass of molecules, mass of nucleus. When I say large, it is going to be very large, like mass of Earth, mass of moon, mass of planets, mass of entire solar system, mass of our entire galaxy, mass of the universe. All those things are the mass ranges which are considered to be large according to physics. Okay. So rest everything what we see in our daily life are all average masses, like mass of jewels, mass of loaded truck, all those things, on mass of say vegetables that we see, mass, and mass of any object that we measure, all belongs to average scale according to the measurements in physics. So average range of mass is, examples of this range is mass of a loaded truck. Okay, yes, this is also average mass. And how do we measure the mass of loaded truck? Very simple, we have devices or setups like weighing gauge, weighing bridges. Okay, once the vehicle comes and stands on top of the weighing bridge and will get the weight, then the vehicle goes and empties the load, comes back. After emptying the load, the weight or the mass of the truck is again measured. The difference of those two masses gives the mass of load, right? Weighing bridges, you might have seen them. They are all direct methods. Okay, mass of loaded truck, mass of vegetables, which are generally in kilograms, mass of vegetables, mass of jewels. Okay, because we make use of small quantity, we always take small mass of jewels, right? Like 1 gram, sometimes few milligrams also. So that makes all of them belongs to average range of mass. They are all measured using direct methods. Okay, direct methods using the devices. Okay, devices or measuring devices like spring balance. Okay, spring balance. You have seen spring balance in the bridge course itself, right? I have shown you that about spring balance, beam balance. Okay, beam balance, the regular beam balance, what we take, we put weights on one pan and we put the object in the other pan and we measure. Okay, so that is beam balance. Spring balance, will hold the spring and will load it. And we also make use of electronic weighing machines. electronic weighing machine. And the other thing is weighing bridges. Weighing bridge is also the setup or the apparatus that we make use to measure average range of mass. Okay, only the average range using the direct method. Okay, these are all belongs to direct methods used to measure different objects like this. Clear? So this is about average range of mass. And now when I take large range of mass, okay, as I said, average mass belongs to takes all these things. Large range of mass involves mass of Earth, mass of Moon, mass of stars, planets, Sun, etc. So these are the examples for large scale mass or large range of masses, and they are all measured, mass of them, these large scale objects are measured using indirect method. Okay, and the indirect method that we make use to measure these kind of large masses is called gravitational method. Very interesting method. We'll discuss this method in detailedly when we go to the chapter gravitation, which we have in our syllabus. Okay, we'll make use of Newton's gravitational method to measure this huge masses. Okay, just mentioning it. We don't need to go into the method. It's not given in the syllabus. The detailed method is not given. Very interesting book at the same time. We can actually measure it, get to know about it. That's fine. I am not going deep into it. It's not there in the syllabus. But you should remember which method do we make use of. And when we take small scale or small range of mass, the masses are somewhat like this: mass of atoms, mass of molecules, mass of nucleus, etc. So these are the ranges. Again, they are measured using indirect method. Okay, which is mass spectroscopy. Mass spectroscopy is the method that we will make use of to measure small range of masses. Okay, so this is about different measurements of different ranges of mass. And the final quantity to measure, quantity to discuss the different types of measurements is time. Okay, length is done, all three ranges of length done, all three ranges of mass done. Now we are entering into the time, measurement of time. Measuring time. So once again, see, time has three ranges in physics. What kind of range do you take as small range of time in our daily life? Like say the time taken by this chappies to fall down is a very small time for us, right? Just to do this, the time that takes is small time for us. What is the large amount of time that we observe in our daily life? The time taken for the growth of a tree, right? For the say, yeah, somewhat like that, for the construction of a building is the large amount of time that we see in our daily life. But in physics, the range is again going to be much more. When I say small time, it's going to be very, very, very small time, which is the time taken by an atom to get into the ground state or de-excite from its excited state. Very small time, very small time. It's going to be in the range of 10 to the power of minus 15 seconds, 10 to the power of minus 22 seconds. This is the range of time that we consider as small range of time, very small range of time. And when we take average time, the average time is regular time that we take everywhere, see everywhere, like the time taken for a chalk piece to fall down to do this, or the average time is also the time lifetime of a human being. 100 years is also average time in physics. Okay, then what is the large range of time? Large range of time in physics is the age of earth, entire earth, or age of substances, rocks or soil or water on earth. Even the age of planets, age of moon, age of sun, age of other stars. Okay, that is the large range of time. Okay, so we'll see what are the different methods that we use in measuring all these three ranges of time. So when I take, as usual, average time first, average range of time. The examples for average range of time are, what are they? Like time taken, time for the fall of an object, small time, and the time that we take to run 100-meter race, that's also a time, right? But that also comes under average scale. And lifetime of human being or different species. All of them belongs to average range of time, and we measure all these different average ranges using the devices. One is the simple clock. Okay, simple clock can be used. Pendulum clock can also be used. And even we will make use of clocks like electronic clock or electronic clock, watches. These days we have smart watches and all. Okay, that's fine. These are the tools or devices that we make use to measure average range of time. And the large range of time. What are the different large range of time? So large range of time is the age of planets, age of earth, age of moon, age of star, etc., etc. Okay, and they are all measured, all those timings, different times are measured using different indirect methods. Okay, indirect methods by carbon dating. We call that as C14 dating, C14 dating, carbon dating is done. And we also analyze by analyzing the fuel left in stars. What is this fuel? See, hydrogen is the fuel for sun, isn't it? If we can estimate the amount of hydrogen left in the sun or the amount of helium that the sun has, that will give us the idea about age of sun, because the phenomena that's happening inside the sun is nuclear reaction, nuclear fusion is happening. So we can analyze when did this reaction begin, and hence that will give us the age of sun, isn't it? So that's how it is. Once we analyze the amount of fuel left, we can get the time before which there was complete fuel. Okay, so that is how we analyze the star's age and sun's age, all those things. And when we take small range of time, okay, very small range of time, like time taken for de-excitation of an atom, all those things comes under small scale ranges, and they are all measured using, see, which means this range requires more precision or more accuracy. So which means, yeah, we'll get to know what are accuracy and precision in next class, don't need to worry. So it requires a clocks which are very advanced, okay, and those kind of clocks which we can make use of in this kind of measurements are cesium clocks. Okay, cesium clocks are can also be used for average time measurement. That's also fine. Okay, they are also used here, but these are very advanced clocks compared to these clocks. Okay, cesium atomic clocks. Cesium atomic clocks. They give us the idea about very small, very small amount of time. Okay, so that is about three ranges of time and their different measurements. Okay.